All right, I believe we are now officially live on Facebook, and we're recording this as well. I am Shannon Tibbetts, co-founder of the Creative Compass Collaborative. I'm here with my partner in crime, Lauri Maynard, and we have with us the fabulous Ramona. And we're going to talk a little bit today about connecting to spirit. So before we do that, I just want to introduce Ramona and give her a chance to let you all know who she is and what magical things she's doing.
Hi, Ramona here. I am in Central Florida, located in a small little town called Oakland, just outside of Orlando. And I am a 17-year practitioner. Started out as a massage therapist, integrated into yoga, then eventually into Reiki practitioner. And now I offer all kinds of magical things around the chakra system. As you can see, we got lots of color around me. So everything that I do kind of comes back to understanding those energy centers and then evaluating and self-processing. And ultimately finding ways to get connected to our intuitive self, which is spirit. And when we can listen to spirit and honor what's coming through and make choices from that space instead of this space, that's where the magic is. So that's what I do.
Which is that not listening over here is a battle for me that I deal with all day long. Yeah, and so one thing you didn't mention, and I want to point that out too, is Ramona also does crystal bowls and sound therapy and all that beautiful work.
Yeah, I consider that part of the yoga chakra Reiki thing. So it's just one of the many elements tools that I use when working with clients, with groups. We just do a lot of tapping into all different kinds of ways of getting close enough to hear.
Exactly. And one thing I didn't expect when I first started working with you was how deeply you go into it and how much spirit is connected in all the things. It's not yoga for stretching. So why don't you take a few minutes and just kind of give people just a little glimpse of what a class with Ramona might be like and why that's so important in everybody's daily life as far as connecting with spirit, what that's doing for them.
Yeah, because I teach so many different kinds of workshops, I guess I'll talk from the yoga perspective because, I started out just with a really traditional, okay, what does the masses want? Let me teach to the masses, right? Like, how do I get people through the door? And through my own journey of settling into dis-ease, because I was living from that ego space instead of really tapping into listening to what spirit wanted to birth through me. And I'm using that word specifically because so much of what I do now is channel, okay, what do you want me to create? How can I be of service to the universe and help raise the vibration of the whole? And so even my yoga classes now, when you come in, we're pulling cards, and that's going to be the theme that I'm going to use for the practice. And then the whole practice is really about getting into feeling it in your body. It's not just about, let me move through these shapes as quickly as possible so I can get to the end of it and go to Shavasana. The Shavasana is actually where all the really cool stuff that we did on the way there gets to become really magical. So I'm really about tuning in, tune in, constantly tune in. What are you feeling? How are you experiencing this moment of this practice? And that's the core of everything that I believe. If you don't feel it, you can't heal it. If you can't understand it, you can't feel it. So we do a lot of this. And so through the yoga, through the Reiki, through the different tools, the bowls, the chanting, all the things. Like I could have so many things. I don't even know how to say all the things right now. But by pulling those resources together into different experiences, right? So yeah, there's a yoga experience that you're going to have if you come to a yoga class with me, but it's going to be very spirit driven, just like any other class that I'm going to offer, because I'm not in the business of chasing anymore. I'm in the business of honoring. really honoring my purpose, my gifts, and really, really being excited about helping other people figure that out for themselves. Because that's what I've been really gifted over the last couple of years, especially, is all these beautiful light workers that are like, I don't know what to do with all this. And I'm like, here you go. Let's go down the path. And then we just travel together and they find their voice.
So
and
beautiful.
live it and really live it. Really live it.
That's beautiful. Part of my journey was also working with Ramona and finding my voice and being in that space. Ramona's known me for a while, and my inability to slow down and be able to listen and hear is one of the things that I think she's helping me with the most, is being able to have that space. For me, that meant a lot of daily practices and having that slow down and that pause. So I thought we'd just take a minute and just kind of each maybe share what we're doing in our daily life to add that pause so that we can be more receptive, so that when we are in a place and have that opportunity to experience that yoga class and that meditation and, you know, that heart chakra class that we're going to go to, so that we are in a space of being ready, being open, being prepared. If we can, you know, each be in that starting point of being ready to have that awareness, so that when people are talking about that, we can really learn what that means, as opposed to preconceived notions maybe, and that kind of thing. So that space of where do we each go to start that practice, so that we can do that and also be of service to others, because I think that's a big part of it. If we have to do it for ourselves so that we can give that out. I thought maybe Lauri could start with that one.
Yeah, I work with that a lot in my work, kind of helping people push through what they're afraid of so they can find that open space. Ramona, I like that your whole business is about healing as well as, you know, the movement of it, because sometimes people can get intimidated about positions and being strong enough or flexible enough to sort of jump into one of those classes. But when the focus is on the energy and the healing, I think it's a lot more open. So I appreciate that, especially as a segue for my work, because I'm just helping people process, and I need a place for them to really activate that. So I love this whole collaborative piece for that reason. Personally, I tend to find my most clarity when I have a quiet space and I can kind of write. I am a little literal with stuff, so I can do the movements, but my mind is going so fast, I have a hard time settling in. So I appreciate the sound that you add to it, and the energy work itself kind of helps me. But writing, sort of flushing through some of how I'm feeling, that way settles my mind so that I can just embrace it more fully. So I appreciate what you do, and I've been enjoying that through the through there. Thank you. It's the first time we've met here, so I appreciate meeting you as well. And I look forward to doing some more stuff. Yeah.
Before
Well,
we actually,
I think
I was going to actually just, before we move from that, I just want to, if you can talk, because your writing that you do a lot of times comes from the spiritual place. You're connecting to spirit and doing a lot of that type of meditative writing as well. Before we jump off, let's, if you don't mind, just sharing a little bit about what that process is.
Yeah, it's dual, right? So I'm journaling sometimes if I'm stressed or just need to unload something. So there's that part of the writing. But once you kind of unload and just let yourself write for the sake of writing and write just the first thing that comes to your mind, your ego kind of steps aside, and then words come in, and I'm able to write faster than I can actually think about them. So I end up surprising myself later. That's how I know it's coming from a higher place rather than me. Because it's not saying what necessarily I want to hear. Sometimes it makes me mad because, you know, I'm getting guidance to do things that I don't feel ready for or I'm afraid of. Or sometimes it's just knock it off, whatever I'm doing. So when it gets to be really genuine and sparks an emotion in me, then I know it's coming from a higher place. And I think we all have a way into that. Mine is words, but you can do it through music, through movement. anytime you create through soup, I love making soup when I'm upset. It's just another way to channel energy. So yeah, that's just kind of how I tap in. But
Thank you. Ramona, you were
Yeah,
saying.
I think for me, because my journey began with yoga, for me, the breath is so important to getting quiet. So every practice I teach, we start in Shavasana breathing for like 15 minutes. Because that reason that you said, Lauri, that you can't get out of that busy mind, right? So I spend that first 10, 15 minutes asking you to acknowledge it, asking you to honor it, asking you to be with it. And then I bring you to the breath and ask you to let it fall behind the breath. I ask you to bring it back to the breath when that mind starts to become loud again.
yes.
And to me, that's, for me and my journey, that's where every single part of my being can hear, is when I'm breathing. Because then I know my body and my mind are in alignment, because the bridge between the body and the mind is the breath. So for me, my intuition, the way that I receive my guidance, we all have primary senses that we hear, hearing, seeing, feeling, knowing. You could go down the list. I think there's like 7 or 8 of them, but the primary ones are going to be seeing, hearing, feeling, and knowing. Those are the first 4 that I teach my students. And my primary sense is feeling. If it is coming through, my body is going to say yes, or my body's going to say no. And I'm making those movements exactly the way my body receives them. Yes feels like this, and no feels like this, because it feels tight and it doesn't feel good. And that took me a long, long, long time to figure out that was spirit speaking to me. Now they actually, like, if it's for somebody else, they talk to me on the right side. And if it's for me, it comes in on the left side. That was a fun find. When we open up our intuition and we become even more in tune to hearing our guidance, all of the senses start turning on. So just because you have a primary sense that you might be operating under right now, it doesn't mean that it's the only one that you have access to. Going down this path, we become more and more in tune. The quieter that we become, the more we pay attention. And Lauri, to your point about writing, that's part of my coaching program. Like, they do a meditation and they journal. And the journaling is really just there for them to kind of like pour out whatever came up through the meditation, so that they can look at it and be like, oh, wow, that's what I need to know. Got it. Versus, well, I know. No, you don't, because you're thinking it. You're not feeling it. Get into your heart, feel it. And as we feel it, then things begin to make more sense. I had this beautiful person that I met recently that came to an event that I did, and they messaged me a few days after, and I had said it was our day of self-love. I had said, we're really opening up that heart. We're really opening up to listening to your authentic voice, to that heart song is what I call it, the heart song. And I said, so it may take a week or 2 or a month or whatever. He messages me the next day. He goes, you lied. It came today. It was a day later. And I was like, well, it's all based on how ready you are. Are you ready to hear? Are you ready to tap into your intuition? Are you ready to let spirit move through you? Wow. Whenever we ask those questions, that's when it gets special, because then we're really ready to do the work. And that's it. I'm not here to do the work for you. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to give you tools. I'm going to suggest things. I'm going to be a mirror. Is this really what you want? Because this is what you said. But I'm not going to tell you what to do. So when I do that, then they have to actually listen to themselves. I had this really interesting experience this last week, speaking of the heart song, that was it brought me to tears. I was kayaking, and we were out, and there was these manatees everywhere. And I hadn't actually kayaked with manatees. I've seen them, you know, standing on the side of the riverbed or whatever, but actually in the water, and they're there, right? And we kind of went back into this creek that was about to dead end. And all of a sudden there's this big mama. And I just put my paddle on my lap and I just let the river take me. And it brought me, and she just went right underneath me. And just as she went underneath me, her heart song said, "Welcome, I love you." It brought me to tears to feel that authentic vibration just sing through the water, the boat. We were one in that very moment as she sat right underneath my boat. That's how palpable spirit can be.
So beautiful.
It's just a matter of getting yourself to the practices that are going to help you get quiet enough to hear. And that's what I do, as I teach those practices.
It's beautiful. I loved what you said about the guiding, because I think that's a common misconception with people, you know, that we as coaches and healers, and, you know, we come in here and we tell you this is how you have to do that, and we're instructing, and that's not at all what this is. No. It's truly a guide. And I know Lauri and I spent probably 2 months having conversations back and forth about different ways we can explain this so that people can hear it, you know, and understand it when they wonder what it is that we do, and how we're getting things out there, and the courses that we're offering, because it's a guided journey. We're all on this journey, and the name of your company is Authentic Life Journey, which is beautiful in and of itself. And that's what we're all here doing. We're taking this authentic journey, or our way. And I think that right there is where it gets real, because people are either in that space of allowing, you know, like you said, you had an absolutely incredible moment, and you could have been in that kayak in that exact same situation. That would have been a very different experience for you had you not been connected to spirit, had you not been in that place of allowing things to happen and allowing your life to go. And people don't, they think, like I said, it's an instruction, but it's also, it's not just the allowing, we have to let go to allow. We have to let go of so much of our own ideas of what we think life is supposed to be and how we're supposed to do it. And that's a big part of, I think, all of our practices, is that we're all in the business of letting go and allowing for things to happen. A lot of the way I do my intuitive practice, which I mean, it happens all day long, but my intentional sit down and do those kind of things, I hear mostly in creation, when I'm getting lost in art, when I'm throwing paint around, when I am throwing tarot cards around, which I haven't looked to see even what it is, but I pulled one while we were talking. I've been shuffling. But it's in those spaces of I'm not in charge. I'm just moving things and allowing. And for my first 40 some years of my life, I was very type A personality, very much in charge, and I knew exactly what I was going to do and when I was going to do it. And I missed out on a lot because of that. And it wasn't until I took that pause, and I don't know, for me, I think for a lot of people it's fear. I don't think for me it was fear so much as it was the preconceived notion of how things are supposed to be. I think it really was those limiting beliefs, that when I did all my certifications, limiting beliefs is one of the things that stuck with me the most, because I feel like that's a big part of what slows people down. Even this conversation of connecting to spirit, there's so many people out there that will question, well, what are we talking about? Are you religious? Are you, what religion is it? You know, how is this all work? That's a whole nother,
that's a whole nother conversation.
conversation right there, right? But it's individualized, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's removing those preconceived notions and slowing down enough to breathe through it, right? To slow down enough to actually allow that process to take over. What I want to do is leave people with some very practical ways that they can start to allow this process to happen, so that they can be more open, so that they can start to move into a space of, if they're wondering about any of this, if they're just at the beginning stages and they have no idea and they thought yoga class was, you know, somebody like a kickboxing class, you know, just a different instructor. And they're in this space and they're saying, okay, I have this time on my hands now. What should I do with it? I'd like to give them some practical things of, here's where to start. We'll go ahead and we'll obviously post in the comments as well, individually, what's available right now. Ramona is doing a lot of practices herself where she's offering things to the community and in various ways. So there's definitely ways to get involved, but I want to maybe just I'll take a second and give everybody some practical tips on some suggestions on how to get there.
Before you do that, I just would like to tap on one thing that you said about the authentic life journey. So, and to, in a roundabout way, touch on that spiritual connection, like how we are following our journeys with spirit. The reason that my company name became Authentic Life Journey is because everyone's experience is authentic to them. And I don't sit in front of a single client and have this same discussion twice, because everyone's experience is different. So whatever your experience is, it's okay that it's what it is, because it's what's meant for you. It's what you came to this life to do. And because of that, because of those experiences, because of those things that you had to go through, those darknesses, they're your path to help another. And that was something that when I honored that, when I really realized that that's how I am able to be of service, is to take the lessons that I learned through my life and be able to meet someone who maybe had a completely different path, but has similar feelings, similar diseases, and be able to say, I may not have experienced that, but I understand where you are. And I honor your journey. And that's the other piece of my company, journey, because it is a journey. I talk about this a lot at the end of my 6-week program, and the spiraling staircase. So the journey with spirit is never, I'm falling backwards, because we do that a lot. Oh, I did all this work and now I'm right back at square one. Nope, you're not. You're never back at square one. Once you start, you are never back at square one, because you have learned something. You have gained a higher perspective. You have gained awareness that you did not have at square one. So it's a spiraling staircase. So you may come to a point that looks really similar to this one, but it's not the same, because you know more. And when you're ready, you'll rise again. So your path, your journey, your way of connecting to spirit, whether it's through a specific religion, whether it's through just sitting with the moon, whatever it is. I've recently gotten real familiar with goddess work, because it's really speaking to me to honor the divine feminine. Because, you know, we're both divine feminine and masculine. We're not one or the other. So I've had to really work on bringing that yin, that nurturing, that sensuality, that feminine part in, because I was very yang. I was very yang. And so many people that I work with come in very yang. So, yeah, yeah. So to learn to soften ourselves and to be okay with that is like, what? But no matter your experience, it's authentic to you. And we're just here to honor where you are and support you in raising your vibration to where you want to raise it. So that's what I have to say about that.
I love it. I love it. And
Absolutely.
the yin yang conversation is one that we have often. I am very yang and Lauri is very yin. And that was one of the reasons I think that we kind of fell into this space where we're always kicking over the rock and looking underneath it and investigating it from two different sides, and how can we utilize that to help all around. And one thing you mentioned before that I don't think we've really said fully is the compassion aspect of what we do. And I think that's something that's important to mention, because when people are coming in, a lot of times they're coming in from that space of being, you said the no space. They're in the no space, and they've lived in that no space for a long time, and it's a difficult thing to recognize, and it's a little bit scary to kind of open up those arms and say yes, and be okay with doing the things that you need to do for yourself. And I love that compassion aspect of it.
And to recognize the difference between yes and no. Like we've been in a state of yes, 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 because we were taught to say yes to things that are not intuitive to us.
Absolutely.
So when I'm saying the difference between yes and no is I'm taking intuitively yes, correct. Intuitively no.
Yeah.
Because the place that I came from was, let me accommodate anyone. Let me make all of you happy. Let me do, old paradigm. Codependence 101. This girl right here. And now I'm like, does that feel good to me? Spirit, is that where you want me to go? And I'm very, very clear about if this doesn't feel good or if it does. I think I even said to you, Shannon, just a few days ago, I'm like, that's feeling real tight. And if it feels tight, I'm not saying yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
And that's a big difference for you in a short period of time, really, to be able to do that. Even with, friends, because it's a space we've lived in for so long. I jokingly tell Lauri all the time, I'm making her a Own Your No shirt. We're going to have a whole series of shirts that say Own Your No, because it's a constant conversation. It's difficult to say that when you feel it, because we're all giving in nature. And we've been taught on top of that we should be doing all of these things. And yes, you have to be at that meeting. And of course you have to do that thing. I think I didn't realize how extreme that was for me until I was in a grief state, and I didn't care. I was at the point of, I'm doing whatever I need to do to make it through this minute right now. And whatever I need to do is okay. And I was being told what was good and what wasn't. I was ripped right open and able to hear at that point, and to be able to recognize what was for me and what wasn't. And I was able to say that. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that I'm doing what I'm doing now, because the aspect of being in that state and still not doing what you need to do for you is a state that very many people are in, because of the societal norms and all those preconceived notions. And so it was kind of a way to me to give that voice of saying it's okay to do those things for yourself. Go ahead.
And it's also okay if you don't do it every time. You don't have to beat yourself up for it, because we're on a journey. Absolutely. Right?
Yeah.
We're on the journey. So there's going to be days that I'm going to be really good at saying my no. And then there's going to be days that I'm going to be like, damn, I said yes and I should have said no. you know, but I'm not going to beat myself up for it. I'm going to adjust. And sometimes that adjustment is me going back and going, you know what? I thought about this and I can't do it. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge step for me, is to realize that even when I say yes, if I realize later that it's actually a no, it's okay to go back and say no.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about that, the whole pattern, how we grow. We need both sides. We need our yeses and our nos. And on a spiritual journey, we almost have to experience all the stuff that maybe isn't loving and growing in order to figure out that that's what we need. So whether, you know, if you're in a place of not feeling well, that's just as spiritually important as the stuff that is going well.
Maybe
so
more.
it's all there for us to listen to and learn from.
Thank you, shadows.
Yeah. I spent a year and a half in shadows doing shadow work for a year and a half.
Yeah.
I do it every day.
And I call every bit of it the gift. I talk about that a lot. I'm like, what is the gift of this situation? Even when I am in dis-ease and dismay, I have to step back and go, okay, what's the gift? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it takes me a minute to get to the point of asking that question, but I always get there now because it's part of my practice. It's part of my practice to go, God, this feels really bad. And I really feel like all the feels and I don't know what to do. But now I get to go, okay, what did I gain? Mm-hmm. What did I gain? Because that's the piece that's like, whoo, that's where the gold is. Mm-hmm. What did I gain? And even in that crap mess that I was just in, what did I gain?
There's always something. And that's a perfect segue, because that's actually one of my daily, and I actually do it all the time, I think, but it's a daily intent of gratitude. I start the day with, you know, and what is this giving me? What happened yesterday? What situation am I in right now? Where is the good in it? And that's something that I do intentionally all the time. It is a practice that I have put into place, and it's one that I talk about, and it's one that we do as a family, and it comes up often. You know, when we're having a discussion and somebody's not happy about something, it's, well, there wasn't very much gratitude in that statement. What about this aspect of it? And it, as a society, we don't live in that space. We're looking for the negative news, you know, and so it is a practice that you have to put in place. For me, I don't have to have a specific routine for it now, because it's part of my everyday. But one of the practical things that someone can do is to actually create a gratitude jar or a bowl, or, you know, something of that sort, where every day or every moment you feel it, even if it starts like that, you write down this thing that you are grateful for and you throw it in this jar. Just write it on a piece of paper, doesn't matter what it looks like, throw it in the jar. And then at the end of that month, take the stuff out of the jar, you know, and then you'll start looking and start noticing what it is that you are grateful for and all those things in your life. And then you'll start looking at things differently. And even something that you may not have felt was you were grateful for it a month ago, now you're looking at it completely differently. And all you see is the good in that situation. You don't see the negative. I'm sure we're all dealing with some form of something right now that has been thrown at us that we didn't call for, we didn't want, and it's a lot of challenge. What you see behind me was a challenge.
Did we call for it or not? That might be questionable.
Somebody might have called for it. That's another discussion.
Well, yeah, consciously, subconscious manifesting.
Right, exactly. That energy came from somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Right. But that practice we'll notice it. And then allow yourself to take the time each day. Schedule it in. If you're somebody that needs to do that, schedule in 30 minutes. If you don't have 30 minutes, which right now you probably have 30 minutes, but if you don't have 30 minutes, schedule in 10, start there. But schedule it in. If you're, so strapped for time, schedule in a bath instead of a shower, put some candles on, treat yourself. That's giving back to yourself. Start with there, where you can put yourself in a space where you're allowing that quiet, allowing your awareness, allowing yourself to, I every morning look at the backyard and I'm kind of tracking the birds and see what they're doing out there. And I spend 20 minutes with nature every morning. Sometimes I'm outside and sometimes I'm inside. It depends on the weather, but it happens every day. There's not a day that it doesn't happen. I will go and sit and watch. And while I'm doing that, things happen, right? Things come to me. Sometimes my head is going so much, I don't hear as much. I don't feel as much. I also feel. That's my strongest clair is just knowing and the feeling, and it's a physical sensation, but you will start noticing that if you give yourself that pause. So those are a couple of practices. I also for me, it's tarot and oracle are a big part of my everyday, because it's a tool that I use to tap into what I might need to hear that I'm not necessarily asking the questions about. And what it does is it's kind of like a prompt. It's when you went to school and your teacher gave you a prompt on any particular question that you weren't thinking of, and then you had to actually think about that question and see what it means to you in your life. That's what tarot and oracle will do for you. It will prompt you into that space. And there's a bunch of different options that you can go for that. You just go with what speaks to you, and finding that time and that space, that prompt. Again, this doesn't have to take a lot of time. It's, maybe a 30-minute practice through the course of the day that I'm doing these things, but it's time that you give to yourself. So that's my personal suggestion. If one of you wants to jump in on what your maybe practical aspect of. Lauri loves the practical. Let's start with you.
Yes, I can tag on to your being aware piece, because so much of being able to connect is about awareness. And we're just as much human as we are spiritual beings. So we're always fluidly moving between both sides of that fence. And we kind of know which side we're on depending on how we feel. That's the job of emotion, is to be that compass to say, okay, I'm being a human right now because I'm upset or stressed, or I need to get this job done, or I'm feeling pretty peaceful and pretty calm. So now I can connect in a spiritual way. We're going to flip through that all the time, depending on what's going on. So I like to try to notice what you're noticing. And if you find yourself stuck or stressed or whatever's going on, then maybe you can do something tangibly outside, like Shannon was suggesting. Notice something outside yourself that you find pleasing or funny or joyful, and that'll help your body kind of line up with that, which eventually will line up your energy as well. So you have more power over this than you think sometimes, especially when things aren't going well. And if you're really not sure what to do, you can always ask. We have guides on the other side. We have our higher selves. We have that spiritual connection. Just by being alive, the energy is already there. And it doesn't matter what you believe spiritually or religiously, physically, you're already made up of energy. So you can ask for that vibration just by asking to be open, like, help me be open. And the energy around you is going to respond to that and give you some direction. So ask the question and then start listening, which is another way to be aware.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I think for me, obviously, yoga is a huge piece of my practices, and yoga. And I'm going to just put this out there because we get really stuck on what we think yoga is. So yoga is not the asana, which is the shapes that you see. That is one piece of it. That is one piece of the whole. So yoga is, for me, the primary aspect of yoga that I really invite my students into. Is you come into my classroom and you can't go in the shape, that's fine, sit there and breathe. Because if you are breathing, you are practicing yoga. Because as I said before, the breath is the bridge between the body and the mind. So even if all I do is take a deep breath in when I walk into the grocery store because suddenly I'm overwhelmed, that's yoga. Cultivating awareness on the mat, that practice that you go to, you're breathing, you're moving, you're focusing, you're allowing yourself to move energy through the body. So that when you walk off of that mat, the whole point of being on the mat isn't the mat. It's what you do when you take it with you off of it. How are you taking your yoga off the mat? Are you taking a pause when your child ignites you and breathing instead of yelling? That's the yoga. Are you recognizing I'm having tension in my chest, so my heart chakra is definitely talking to me? There's anxiety here. Paying attention to becoming aware to the message. That's yoga. You cultivate that by going to the mat. You live it off the mat. So for me, that's what the yoga is. And that is experienced through using my divination cards. I'll pull a card. And yes, it's a prompt. It's an opportunity for me to go, okay, where is my energy? Because I'm moving those cards around, and the energy that's moving those cards is how I'm getting the message. So whatever that is that's going on, Spirit's going to be like, here you go. This is where you need to focus, because you're not listening to this. Or we've told you this over and over again. You keep hearing this, but you're not quite ready to fully embrace it.
Yep.
So once I pull that card, then I breathe, I center, I give myself Reiki. I meditate, I get quiet, I go in and I say, okay, help me. I pray. And then I meditate. So praying is asking for help. Meditation is listening. So we have to be willing to listen. And that monkey mind that we talk about when we're in meditation, it's part of it. Because whatever the repetitive thought is, it's there for a reason. Even if it's just for you to be like, I know that that's important to you, but right now, my breath is the most important thing to me. So if I were to say that there's one tool that I really lean into every single day, it's breathing. When I'm feeling the tension, that takes such a minimal amount of time. So yeah, Shannon, I'm with you. I'd love to be able to say, go get 30 minutes. But you know what? Some people are not ready to commit to that. So I say, take 10 seconds.
Beautiful.
Take a deep breath, sigh it out. And when I do that, suddenly, especially when I use that, that's the heart. That is the sound of the heart chakra. So even if all you do is stand in your bath, your shower, and just, you're going to feel it right here. Even if it's just a, that sigh out is awe. Right there. I do that a lot in my classes. Inhale, sigh it out. Inhale, sigh it out. Because then whenever they're in their life, it may not remove whatever it is that's going on, but at least it softens it for a moment so that I can have clarity and really tap into, what do I really need to be paying attention to here? Why am I having this panic attack right now?
It allows the pause.
Yep, it allows the pause,
Mm-hmm.
which is what my whole practice is based around, is step into the pause, take the pause, because that's where the most opportunity is to hear the truth.
And how can they find you? Let's go right into that. We'll close it out with where can they find you and start doing all these magical, wonderful things.
So currently we have Facebook. So we have Authentic Life Journey Facebook. We have a community that we are nurturing right now in the midst of what is going on, just creating a safe haven for our members to be able to get a little bit of extra TLC, called Authentic Life Journey Community. Authentic Life Journey is my website. So it always comes back to Authentic Life Journey. And then currently messaging me, calling me will kind of get you closer to understanding some of the things that we do. But I offer a lot of workshops, a lot of, when we're able to, live sessions, but we're doing a lot online right now. And currently all of our online offerings, whether they're live streamed through Zoom or on Facebook, are donation based. So there's no, like, if you can't donate, please don't not come, just pay it forward with an act of kindness, because we know that this is a really needed offering that we're doing. So we want to make sure that anyone who needs it has access to it. And yeah, so that's me. And I have a great team that I'm working with as far as the Zoom live classes. So we have like 5 classes, I think, running throughout the week currently, that you can register for. There's no fee to register, and you just get the Zoom link an hour before and you can join us on the mat. So yeah.
And Ramona will drop into the comments too in our Bring Joy Forward group and put these links in there as well for everybody so they can grab those. And I want to thank you for being on today, for being a part of the Bring Joy Forward community and the Creative Compass Collaborative community in general, and just being a light for everyone. I want to thank you for all of that. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you all for bringing me in and having a chat. And I'm actually really enjoying these video chat things that are going on. It's a lot of fun.
We are too. I think we might stop everything else. No, I'm just kidding. Almost, but yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, and we'll go ahead and do this again soon, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds great.
Thanks
Thanks
to
all.
finally meet you.
Yeah. And you.
Right? I know. A virtual meeting. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us today.